This is Colin O'Keefe here with an in-person episode of LXBN TV. The Department of Justice announced earlier this week that would allow Native American tribes to establish their own rules and regulations around the legality of marijuana use. Joining me now to explain exactly what they did and what that could mean going forward is attorney Lael Echo-Hawk. She's with Garvey Schubert Bear. We are here in their offices, and she is author on their blog as well, and that is Smoke Signals. Lael, first off, let's start kind of with the basics. What exactly has the federal government done here? What have they laid out?
Basically, the federal government did what they've done for states, and they're sort of letting states decide whether or not they want to legalize marijuana within their state. There's a number of requirements, but I think most importantly, the memo that was released last Thursday, it's actually written in October, but that was released last Thursday, it says two things. Number one, it says that the federal government can still enforce federal marijuana laws. And number two, that while tribes can begin thinking about whether or not they want to legalize, that consultation has to occur with the individual districts. And, that's sort of one of the problems that I see going forward, because this consultation that's going to happen has to be done on a district-by-district basis.
Absolutely. And then that's a nice segue there. As you mentioned, one of the negatives, many people have seen this news come down. They say this is going to be very big. This could be huge. What are your thoughts on how big this could be? And then with that, what are some of the positives? But then, as you mentioned, what are the negatives that could come with this as well?
Yeah, so I agree that this actually could be huge if tribes decide to enter into this industry. There's a lot of opportunity. Again, you have to follow through with the requirements of robust regulatory scheme. I think first and foremost, tribes need to sit down and internally decide whether or not, based on the issues that they've dealt with, social issues. I mean, some of these large land-based tribes have actually, in the past couple of years, we've lobbied Congress for the passage of the Tribal Law and Order Act, the Violence Against Women Act, because we've seen drug dealers come out into Indian country and grow and sell, and then come back because there was sort of this safe haven that we've tried to address those things, and we certainly have through these various pieces of legislation. But those issues we need to internally work through, and then we need to figure out how that enforcement's going to look. There are counties, there are towns, there are states, the Department of Justice. There are all these agencies, law enforcement agencies that tribes are going to need to talk to and figure out some sort of comprehensive enforcement scheme that's going to be much more sophisticated, I think, than what we have currently. So once you jump through that hurdle, then tribes are going to need to take a look at their own internal codes and ordinances, regulations, and decide how you're going to make that. If you decide that you want to enter into the industry, then how are those codes and regulations and policies all going to intersect? And if not, then tribes need to be aggressive about passing ordinances and laws that say that the tribe is not going to legalize marijuana, because otherwise you end up in a situation here, for example, in Washington State, where you've got tribes that, like the Yakama Nation, which has been in the news, that say absolutely not, no marijuana on their land. But then, you cross the street and you can be in Washington State where it is legal. And so, tribes are going to have to be very clear about the position that they take. But there is opportunity in terms of production, that growing, processing, actually turning into medicinal or recreational marijuana products, and then retailing, whether or not tribes want to retail. There is an opportunity, for example, here in Washington State, where a tribe that allows smoking in the casino could conceivably allow an area to consume marijuana products, which in Washington State is not legal to consume marijuana products publicly. So there's sort of that opportunity. There is opportunity, but the nuances are very, very complicated. We're working on them here at Garvey Schubert Bear. We're going to have a webinar in January where we sort of go through in much more detail than our little conversation here. So I'm going to be posting about that on the blog probably next week, and see how it goes.
Cool. We'll have to keep an eye out for it. You know, like you mentioned, it presents an abundance of opportunity, but all sorts of gray areas can pop up. I saw on a state level, one state is suing another state that it borders because it's having to step up its law enforcement activity. So there's opportunity, but there's a lot of gray areas as well. Once again, that was Lael Echo-Hawk. You need to, if you want to see more of her insight, it is on her blog, Smoke Signals, and of course, she is with Garvey Schubert Bear, where we are today. Thanks for talking with me today.
Yeah, thanks, Colin.